Bill Carroll for Zenny62 Media, and I'm putting together my watch list for 2026. I'm going to have about 200 players on the list before all said and done, and I'm going to walk you through some of the players I have on the list and why they're there and what I expect of them in the year coming forward. And of course, now in the age of the transfer portal, many of these players were players that played somewhere else in their previous careers. But I really like the running back group, and I'm nowhere close to being done. But there's a really good group of FCS and FCS transfers up to FBS running backs this coming up in this year. I want you to really pay attention and think about where some of these players will end up landing, because several of them, like Charles Pierre Jr., like Maury Adams, like Antonio Martin Jr. Well, he's just a the redshirt sophomore or junior. He's probably not coming out into this draft class, but I'm going to mention some of the players who are likely to be declared in this draft class and why I think they're going to be really solid NFL prospects. Now, Ronald Dempster is a graduate student at Stony Brook, and despite the fact that he had opportunities to transfer up, he's going to finish out his career at Stony Brook, at least to this point, as of today. But in his career, he's played in 32 games. He's rushed 426 times for 2,082 yards. His big breakout was last year, where he had over 1,300 yards, 1,332 yards rushing on 268 carries, 18 touchdowns. Shows that quote-unquote nose, as they say, for the end zone. He's about 224 pounds, so he's got a good, powerful lower body. He's a guy with that classic big back build. His longest carry last year was for 54 yards. He averaged 5 yards an attempt last year. I think those numbers could still be exceeded despite the fact that every team he faces will be keying on him. He is right about 5'11 and a half, like I said, about 224 pounds. I mean, that is like classic big back build. He is... Think about Skip Hicks, for those who remember Skip Hicks. That's kind of back I could see him being at the next level. I'm going to go even bigger to a player that's transferred from Northern Iowa up to West Virginia and has played at Georgia Military after high school, then went to Hutchinson Junior College, and from there to Texas San Antonio, to UNI, and now to complete, I guess, the triple play, has made his way to Northern Iowa, or the quintuple play, or whatever it is at this point. But was a great player back for Mark Farley, was all-conference honorable mention in one of the deepest and most talented conferences in all of FCS football, the Missouri Valley. And in 12 games last year, rushed for 1,047 yards on just 157 attempts. That's the thing. Under 200 attempts, over 1,000 yards. That's the number I'm looking for, right? 6.4 yards a carry from a big back. Once again, we're talking about someone who's about 6'1 and 5'8", and about 238 pounds. Like, probably will slim down to run. Obviously, he'll probably show up, at this pro day or the combine in the upper 220s, but plays in the mid to upper 230s. Actually has okay hands. Doesn't throw the ball to him a bunch. I'm hoping he gets more receptions in the Rich Rodriguez offense. 13 catches for 77 yards and 1 touchdown last year. And once again, I'm not going to go Michael Turner, right? Pride of Northern Illinois. He's not that fast, but sort of a similar body type. A little taller, not quite as ridiculously thick in the hips, thighs, and glutes, but powerful. The next back is not quite as physically imposing, but is a really, really good running back, and I think is going to have a fantastic career. That's Eli Gilman, who is one of the best backs in, I just mentioned, the Missouri Valley Conference, and now I'm going to talk about that conference and the Big Sky, which I think in terms of running back talent are probably the 2 top conferences in FCS. There's some good guys in the Southland also in CAA, but they really run the rock in the Big Sky and the Missouri Valley. Eli Gilman, about 208 pounds, 207, somewhere in the low 200s, middle to mid 200s. Can probably carry 214 pounds without hurting him. Once again, probably about 5'11 and a quarter, 5'11 3/8, somewhere in there. But once again, medium-sized back build, but what you're looking for. Was second team All Big Sky last year, is a preseason All Big Sky this year, third team All American. had 1,104 rushing yards in just 167 carries last year. So that's extraordinary. Also had 18 catches for 176 yards and a couple of touchdowns. So this is a player that can hurt you in a variety of different ways. Was a Jerry Rice Award winner when he was a freshman. Was freshman of the year in his conference. A true all-purpose back. And I'm not trying to say he's Curtis Martin, but he has some Curtis Martin-esque qualities. And a similar back who was an FBS to FBS transfer is Roman Hemby, who went from Maryland to Indiana. Wrong Big Ten school starting with I. And things to like about him. Had a 100-yard rushing season last year in his last year at Maryland. And I guess, showed enough when he played against Indiana that they became interested in him. Had a catch in every single game last year. So once again, decent hands, better than decent hands. Had 38 games that he played in his time at Maryland. Was a two-time honorable mention All Big Ten player. And has over 3,300, in fact, 3,352 total yards in his career at Maryland. 2,347 yards rushing, 921 yards receiving, 84 kickoff return yards, right? True all-purpose back. I think he's going to have a really, really good year in his time that he'll now be spending in beautiful Bloomington. And then I have to mention Jamar Curtis. Jamar Curtis was a transfer but stayed within the FCS, and now he lands from Lafayette, where he was fantastic, right? Fantastic Lafayette. Now goes to Sacramento State. I think Sacramento State is going to have one of the most interesting offenses to watch. Now, obviously, they have a supremely bright young coach, who I will talk about when I talk about up and coming young coaches. But the go-go offense, right, that Brendan Merriam has had and built throughout his career, and did great work with wide receivers at Pitt, goes and does great work at Texas, and now gets his chance to be in the big chair at Sacramento State. Shout out to Ryan Coogler, director of Black Panther and Sinners and Fruitvale Station, who was himself a very fine wide receiver in days at Sacramento State. But watch out for Jamar Curtis. I think Jamar Curtis is a definite mid-round prospect. If he runs fast enough, he's about 190, 189, 191. He's in that, low 190s to high 180s, so he's not the biggest guy in the world. Going to come in probably slightly under 5'10". But I think he could run in the mid to low 4.4s. At worst case scenario, probably the low 4.5s. But another back that can do literally anything you'd ever ask a back to do. Two-time Walter Payton Award finalist for the top player in the FCS. And also was an All-American in 2023. He's led the Patriot League in rushing in back-to-back seasons. Was first-team All-Conference. In 34 career games, that's 3,064 yards rushing, 32 touchdowns, 505 yards receiving also, with 3 receiving touchdowns. Number 6 all-time in Lafayette Leopards records, right? And that's that's 120 or something year old football program. He's one of the best players in the history of that program. That's the kind of player they're getting. And I'm going to finish up, and I have more running backs, but I'm going to break it up into chunks. Another transfer, FBS to FBS, from Texas State, and he also, even before Texas State, was an outstanding player. He showed up at Houston Baptist too, but Ismail Madhi is another guy, similar build. I'm sort of grouping guys together. Similar build, similar speed, I think, also to Jamar Curtis. Once again, 5'9", maybe 5'8" and 5/8, maybe 192, 3, low 190s. He could probably play at close to 200 without losing anything. Quick. Tremendous ability to cut at close to full speed. Has been a first-team all Sun Belt player in the past. Was on the Maxwell Award watch list and will be again. Was on the Paul Hornung Award watch list and will be again. Was an Earl Campbell, Tyler Rose watch list player. First-team all-purpose player on the All-American team. Was also a second-team All-American All-First player for the Football Writers of America's team, ESPN, and Phil Steele's team. First team for CBS Sports and 24/7 Sports. Was Sun Belt All-Conference for All-Purpose. Was a third-team All-American for Athlon at All-Purpose. Was a terrific return specialist, so much to the point he was second-team All-Conference in the Sun Belt for return specialist in 2023. Was the national Paul Hornung Award Player of the Week back in September 30th of 2023. In 33 games between Houston Christian. Sorry, HCU, not HBU. He was at Houston Christian, and then at Texas State. In 518 rushes, that's 2,890 yards rushing, 16 touchdowns. Also was number one in the nation in all-purpose yardage in 2,169 yards in 2023. At a ridiculously great year. And that's 5.2 yards a carry in 2024, 990 yards rushing, so almost 1,000 yards, and shows up everywhere, right? I mean, there's nothing he doesn't do. Everything you could ask the back to do, he can do at a high level. The only thing he isn't is particularly large, but watch out for Ismail Madhi. He's now at Arizona, so maybe people who didn't see him in his other stops will now see him now, but he is the kind of player that if you are a person who cares at all about scouting running backs, you should be scouting Ismail Madhi. He's probably a third down back and a return guy at the next level. I'll have probably 3 or 4 more videos about the running back group, and I'll work my way through, well, hopefully the entire draft class. By the time I'm done with this, I will have a couple hundred players on my watch list. So once again, please like and subscribe. Bill Carroll for Zinni62 Media.